Well, in a transparent show of Canada's sovereignty and independence against threats from President Donald Trump, Mark Carney has invited King Charles to open the 45th Parliament and deliver the critical speech from the throne, a history-making moment not seen in this country in nearly 50 years. Now, to help us preview the visit and the speech and what we should watch for, we're joined now by KISS 92.5 host Greg Burns, a royal commentator who's met several royals over the years. Greg, so great to have you in studio this morning.
Lovely to be here on a historic occasion.
Yes, let's start with the King coming to Canada, because this, of course, was a visit that had been talked about for some time, had it not been for his cancer diagnosis. It's going to be his first trip as reigning monarch to Canada. Just how big of a deal is this?
Well, yeah, you're right. Originally, of course, he was going to be here in 2023, but I think that would have been the kind of royal visit you would be expecting just after the coronation. It would have been very much a for-show visit, if you like, what most people would consider and what you would normally think of a royal visit. I think this really is it's unprecedented, really. I don't think, as much as we were expecting King Charles to come at some point after the coronation, to be on the throne, I think there'll be a lot of people who will see it tomorrow and think, is this a thing? And it isn't obviously a thing. You know, this is not. I don't think it's something that anyone thought would have happened 6 months ago. There was not. I don't think there was any plan for this kind of royal visit. But of course, things move very fast at the moment, so that's obviously the reaction to that.
Let's talk about the climate, because this visit, of course, comes at the request of Prime Minister Mark Carney.
Yeah.
The King will be delivering that critical speech from the throne tomorrow. That's written largely on the government's advice, but there is scope for the King to be able to add in a few of his own words. What are you expecting to hear?
Well, I mean, obviously the reigning monarch has to be apolitical. They can't. I mean, I'm sure this will be quite frustrating for King Charles. He famously has been very outspoken in the past. Kind of now he is king, has to be less outspoken than he was able to be as a prince. I think in terms of the speech, as you say, it's as it is in the UK Parliament. It's written by the government, and it's what he has to do. I'm imagining that whilst he is here, because of course he is here to show support for Canada. He's not here as a representative of the UK. He's here as, you know, head of state for Canada.
How far do you expect he might go in addressing the issue of Canada's sovereignty?
I mean, I'd like him to be doing elbows up Canada, personally. I mean, if we don't see that, I'll be disappointed. But I think he is restricted by constitution.
Even if, you know, he doesn't throw in an I in that speech, he will be, like, very closely linked to it.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. I mean, I'm sure. I mean, I think by the letter of the Constitution, it has to come from the government. But you know, you can expect full support from the King. I mean, I know, as I say, he's not here as a representative from the UK, and whilst I live here in Canada proudly, so I observe and taken a lot of UK news coverage, and Canada is so supported. People are so behind Canada and what's happening, and the King will, you know, obviously reflect that, and obviously what is happening here in Canada.
I wanted to ask you about that, because delivering the throne speech seems like as strong an assertion as any of the ties between the UK and Canada. How is the King's visit being perceived back home in the UK?
As I say, hugely positive. It's been really interesting. As I say, I take in a lot of the nightly UK news. Canada has been headline news, especially the start of the tariffs. Obviously, then the UK and Europe has now become involved in that as well. But the admiration, it's been amazing, especially as a Brit living in Canada, to see Canada held up so strongly. The national pride that Canada's had, the way Canada's come together and taken this stand, and it's fantastic to see. So obviously Canada has no enemies. Who doesn't like Canada? Britons always love Canada, but at the moment they're like, that's how you do it as a country.
OK, Greg Burns, I have to leave it there. Unfortunately, I'm out of time. Thanks so much for your insights. So great to have you in studio.
Lovely to be here.